All right, welcome to the part two of this update on the baby on the super baby game. I am counting the back once again. Um, in part one, we went on ahead. We went over everything that we did regarding the changes to the enemies and regarding the changes to the camera, and also we went over a few things. We went over a few things regarding that, and also showed the how the enemy AI plays out and stuff like that. But as you saw in the previous video, I also had a little bug that I saw with the player. I went ahead and fixed that because mainly it was just this area right here that was keeping the player from being able to you know uh to change to basically walk back and forth, not only be able to walk back and forth but also be able to have it so the sprites switch in the opposite direction um each time I press left or right on the keyboard. All right, but let's continue on. The second part, we're just going to be going over the other additions that was added to the game. In this one, we went ahead and I went ahead and I added a couple of things. We see this area called transitions. Um, and what I did was, first thing I did was I went ahead and I added a few things. We added checkpoints. The checkpoint systems do work. I'm going to show you that shortly. But first thing I'm going to do is go over the code. Now, what I did was I made two variables. Technically, I made three. I made an instance variable for the player character, and I made I made a instance variable for the player character, and also made two global variables to help me with being able to get this checkpoint system to work. Um, First things first, we got and I commented it out. I commented everything here. Basically, we got the spawn player. It holds the value of the location where the player will be spawning at, whether at the checkpoint or the start point. Then we got the spawn now, where it just basically determines whether the player can spawn or not. And then we got the instance variable named spawn, where basically what that does, that just basically holds the value for where the player will be spawning. The will That just holds the position as to where the player will be spawning at. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the code. Now we have it so here. We have once the player starts, it's going to go ahead and once the player starts, it's going to go ahead and it's going to uh, start the player at the point called spawner. This is the start point in the game. So what it's going to do, anytime the player dies or anything happens, the game is automatically going to always spawn the player at this point, at this at this spawner object. Until a certain condition is met, then the player will always be continuing to spawn at this object. How that condition is met, I'll tell you shortly as to how the player will be switching. How the player, like if the player reaches a certain point, it will switch to the player using the checkpoint as the spawn point instead of the starter spawner point. So what it does, it says, okay, if this equal to start, you can go ahead and start the player at the start point. Then if spawn player is equal to checkpoint, then spawn the player at the checkpoint. All right, and basically what it does, it toggles the spawn now on and off. So if spawn now is equal to on, it goes ahead and spawns one player, and then it goes ahead and turns itself off. And then every second of the game, I'm checking where the player will be spawned at. And this is the local variable called spawn that's within the player itself. So every time the player dies and he's about to spawn again, the spawn instance variable will check to see where to spawn the player. It'll basically check the spawn player variable. It will try to get the value of that variable, which will be start or checkpoint, and it will basically say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and start the player here, spawn the player here, or spawn the player here. Then we have the fader, which that one was it was a pretty long process for me to get working. And we have the faders, and we also have the gateways. And this is where the player, this is how it's determined as to where the player will be spawned at. So if the player collides with the gateway object, and this is the gateway basically, the gateway leads to the second part or the third part of the level, or second part of the level, which will, take the player to another part of the first or second level. What it does a fade in. It fades in, and then it says, okay, because what it means by fade in, it basically will fade this little black thing across the viewport. It will basically spawn down over top of it, over top of the player, and then basically what it'll do, it will basically disable the platform controllers while this is happening. Spawn the position of the player, set the position of the player to the position of gateway 2, which will be the second gateway point, where the player will be spawned at for the second part of the level. And then what happens is then the fade out block will then go up, and then it'll give control of the player back to control of the character back to the player, and then go ahead and wait 1 second, and then basically go ahead and give everything, like I said, give everything back to the player. Uh, and then what happens is, um how the transition, in fact, I basically use a twiner, whatever it's called. And what it does, it creates what it does is it first destroys the fader, then creates the fader at a position of 0.0, which will be which is pretty much it will destroy it and basically put it here at this 0.0 point, and then what it will do, that covers the entire, like I said, the entire map. I mean the entire viewport. And then what happens is it goes ahead and makes that it basically sets that fader, the fader object's size to the value of the viewport. Then it goes ahead and does a transition in, transition out. Basically, it will come down and then go back up, and then it will go ahead and destroy itself. So I have it so at several points this is being called. This function is being called at the beginning of every level, and also at the end of every level, and each time the player dies. So how we set this up here, once again, we have our spawn points here. We have it so that the spawn points at the beginning of the game, the character is spawned at the start point, and then after the player collides with gateway 1, when he goes to gateway 1, his position is then changed to the position of gateway 2, and then his checkpoint after he dies then becomes when he dies, the checkpoint he will spawn at after he goes into the second part of the level will be at the checkpoint. And then it will go ahead and, like I said, it will first, to do that process, what it will do, it will basically create this fader. It will come down and then go up, and the player will be at another spawn point. Will be at his second would be at another location than he was at first. All right, I know that was a mouthful, but I'm just trying to explain things to the best of my ability and as fast as I can, so I'm not taking up too much people's time. I know people want to get to the results of the code. I just wanted to go ahead and explain things. All right, so let me go ahead and just start the game, and also let me go ahead and go here. And like I said, and then I'm going to go over one more thing, and it's right here in the player state called dead. I'm going to have it so that I have it so here that this is triggered only once. Let's change this to 0.5. This is triggered only once. So when the player dies, it waits supposed to be 1 second, and basically then the fader comes down, and then it basically comes down in 0.5 seconds. Then it takes 1 second to go up. It sets the spawn. This tells the player to go ahead and spawn now. It says spawn now to equal to true. It sets the player's spawn point position to the whatever it tells the player when he dies, hey, go to the spawn point. He goes to that spawn point, and then it gives him his health back, and that's what happens, right? So what we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and do a test of this. I'm going to put, right now I don't have it so that the enemies are killing the player at the moment. I'm just basically running some tests on them, but we go ahead and get rid of these guys right now. So we go here, and we basically run. When we die, he came he came back as a bigger size, but we can fix that. He jumps over here, goes here, and boom, there we go. We at our other location. We come back here, die. He spawns right there where our checkpoint is, and we go ahead and move on and continue on the level. So yeah, that's pretty much the whole gist. That's pretty much the whole code right there. That's kind of funny how the player just sat there and just grew like by like 1,000 feet, something like that. But that's why I had this here to check almost every time. But I'm not sure why when I ran this code, he all of a sudden couldn't turn anymore. So I'm not sure. I'm going to have to figure that out. But the main takeaway from this is that everything, we see that the checkpoint is working. We see that the fader is working. Only thing I had to do is figure out why the player can't seem to, turn left or right when I want him to. But you see that this game is coming along very smoothly. I should have the game fully done, I would say, in another couple of weeks or so. I'll try to get it done as fast as I can, but like I said, between work schedules and things like that, I'll try to get, and also got certifications I need to renew. So just a busy time. So I'll try to see if I get the game done over the next couple of weeks. But other than that, I'll do my best to just try to get the game, get as many updates out to you guys, so this game gets into your hands as fast as I can get it to you guys. Other than that, I thank you guys for checking out this video. Once again, this is Cat on the Back. If you wish to play the game, and like I said, right now it's just a prototype that's online right now. Please be my guest to go ahead and try the game out. Let me know any bugs that you encounter, any feedback that you could give on the prototype, because I'm making as many changes as I can in the newest version of the game. So like I say, you have a much more enjoyable gameplay experience. Other than that, like I said, I thank you for checking out this video. Remember to like and subscribe. If you like my content, please hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I put out a new video. Outside of that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. All right.